WK-626 is a non-meeting amendment form. So this form has not changed since we put it out in 2023. However, there has been some confusion about when to use it. So you'll notice that it's called the non-meeting amendment. And it says here that it's the amendment form for changes that do not require a full IEP team meeting. So that we had lots of questions about staff, saying, why are we doing this? It seems redundant that we're doing it on the IEP and we're doing it here. Or why would the parent mark, we do not want to have a meeting when we're actually at the meeting? So we're going to go over the purpose of this form and when you would use it. The amendment non-meeting form is, if you read the little reminder box here in yellow, remember that doesn't print, it's just for your information. The form can be used to document an amendment that takes place outside of a full IEP team meeting. So what's required is that the legal education decision maker and the LEA have to agree to the changes, and they have to agree to amending it without holding a full meeting. So if a meeting does take place, the amendment form, you don't actually need it because all the changes will be discussed at the meeting and documented on the actual IEP. So this form you would use when you have a change and the administrator or LEA rep says, you know what, I'm okay with that. If the parents are fine with it, let's just do some paperwork, create a new record, do the amendment form, and we're not going to pull everybody together in a meeting. Let's just get it done. Okay. So an amendment can be done anytime in between annual meetings, but agencies sometimes have rules about when they will allow their providers to do a non-meeting amendment. So we want you to follow your agency's procedures for how to do that, but make you aware that if you do have a meeting, you do have an amendment record, but you're not holding an actual meeting, that this would be the form you could use to gather that documentation that the LEA and the parent have both agreed to amend without the meeting. So the annual IEP meeting is automatically filled in. The date that the LEA rep was contacted is something that you would type in, and the LEDM contact date. Those are both documenting that both people were notified or contacted about this change. So student name is automatically filled in along with some demographics here. If you see anything left blank that should have been filled in, then just double check your demographics page because that's where it comes from. So maybe you forgot to fill something out over there. The related service provider, you don't necessarily have to list the person's name, like Mrs. Sampson or Mrs. Jones. It's more of OT, PT, social worker, the counselor, whatever the case is for related service providers. That's basically reminding you that you need to also notify those people that an amendment has been done and provide them that update. So this gives the page to the parent and lets them know that this form is you are saying that you understand that we have to look at the IEP annually, but that we are allowed to amend it without everyone being there, as long as the LEA and you are in agreement with it. So that's just the verbiage that's listed on the form, letting them know. So what it does here is list the changes. So here's the proposed change or changes. It's going to be a change in service, frequency, location, duration need to be specified here on that change of service. There's also supposed to be a PWN involved in that, and so you'd want to make sure those things match up. Underneath it, we have the effective date of change. So you would be able to, some people have said, well, if we don't have consent, how do we know the effective date of change before we send it to the parent? I always advise people that the day you send this, that you talk to the parent and the administrator and let them know and they've agreed, that's the effective date of change. When you get consent, you can change and update your dates on the IEP to show the consent date. But a lot of times IEPs are amended and consent's not required. So for example, maybe you amend a goal or you amend it to fix a clerical error. And those aren't things that require a parent to actually make a signature or a sign for it. So the effective date of change would be that date that they agreed to it. So you want to follow your agency's procedure, but this would be the date that they agreed to it, unless your agency says they want you to wait and put the consent date there. This is the documentation here. We agree or we disagree to amend it, and we do or do not wish to convene an IEP. If someone marks they do not or they do wish to convene an IEP, then you would schedule an IEP meeting. If they do not, then this documents their agreement with just doing it via paperwork. So if you're sending this through Parent Portal, they can sign electronically, or if they're sitting there next to you because they came in at conferences and you're wanting to change something, the electronic signature can be used. So they, sign their name here, click save, and then the date and time stamp would be there for you. Maybe you walk down to the principal's office and the principal signs the page, saves it, and now you've got both the parent and the LEA signature on there. If you are not using electronic signatures, it is absolutely okay because the form will work without the signature fields. So you can hit display to print like you've always done before. And when you do that, if these are blank, you just get the line and then you can sign on the line. Okay, here's a reminder that a PWN is going to accompany the notice. So that's just that there. And then people often ask, well, what is the new button for? Well, when you click new, you're able to go in and write down all the informed IEP team members. So this documents for the parent and the LEA who all you made aware of the changes. So when you come up here, a lot of times it is what is in this box here, related service providers, but not always. Okay, maybe you wanted to document the general education teacher. Of course, it has it there, so you could actually put their name, Mrs. Smith or science or whatever. General education teacher, we let her know today, and she is aware of the changes and has a copy. Okay, if you also informed Dr. Vaughn, who is the social worker, right? And it's a great example because special ed, unless I see it over there, it is school social worker, and the date, you just keep adding who all you informed. And when you are finished, you can save it. And when you display to print, that also shows up there. So again, the biggest thing for people, as far as a change that's not a change, but maybe new information or a different understanding of the form, is that you only have to use an amendment form to document that the parent and LEA are agreeing to amend it, the IEP, and they do not wish to have an IEP meeting. So that is the reason that we have to have this form on file and signed. If you are meeting in person and you're doing an amendment, that is absolutely okay. But in that case, you have the signature page and the full IEP, and you do not need to use this form. So if you have additional questions about the 626 or how to use it, be sure to contact us by email. It's Amber or Brian. So Amber at webkids.org or Brian at webkids.org. So thank you and have a great day.